Lou Wartis. Most of you guys know me from, and side note, I love this mic so much more than the Britney Spears bullshit. That thing, you know, like I hate it. So anyway, my name is Lou Wartis. I work for New Holland Brewing Company and Artisan Spirits. I've been with them a little under 3 years. Previously, I worked here, which is how most of you know me. Raise your hand if you remember me from, oh, I just want to drop the mic and leave now. Take that, Chad. Anyway, I worked here for nigh on a decade. It was roughly 9.5 years too long. No. And I was a bartender out front, and this is really where my love of craft beer and where I kind of came into my career happened here at Cicero's. When Karen left, I had the great joy and pleasure of taking over this program for a little under a year, and I have very, very fond memories of this, and I'm happy to be here doing it again. I told Kelly earlier, I feel like of all of the breweries, maybe it should just be called New Holland Presents Beer School because I feel like I'm here the most. I mean, you guys have seen me like 4 times in like, 8 months or something. So whatever, I love you guys, so I'm happy to be here. We are doing something really different tonight. We are gonna try beer because it is beer school. So I have 4 beers we're gonna have tonight. One of which is a seasonal, one of which is a very, very limited release. One is a new beer, and then of course the old standard, which is Dragon's Milk. But Kelly, because she's brilliant, came up with a really great idea to pair these beers with a beer cocktail. So everyone should have 8 cups tonight, right? So we are gonna taste the beer, and then we are gonna taste the delicious cocktails that I will say Kelly came up with. I had no hand in making. So everyone's gonna get a sample of a beer, and then we are gonna sample a cocktail right after that, made with the same beer. And I'll talk a little bit more about beer cocktails and the cocktail world in just a second. So anyone new to beer school in the room? All right, hi guys. So we do this, I should say Cicero's does this, every Wednesday, 5:30 and 7. There are 2 classes. It is free to come. They do something really fun at beer school. You have homework with each course, and basically what that is they would like you to go out and purchase the beers that you tried. They prefer that you purchase them here at Cicero's. Keep your receipt, whether you buy a pint at the bar or you have a meal and have one of the New Holland beers you're having tonight. Or if you go to Schnucks or Dierberg's and you buy a 6-pack of New Holland beer. Please do that, I have kids to put through college. Keep your receipt, write your name on the back of it, and when you come back the next week, we put it in a bucket, we do a drawing, and there's a prize for homework. So I'm gonna do that first right now. We're gonna see who wins the homework for the evening. And I don't know, Daniel, what do you have, 72 receipts in here? Okay. Where's Vesselin? It's always Vesselin, too. Is he here? No? Is he in second class? Oh, he does second class. Gerlach! You're one of the 5 biggest drunks in this fucking room, so of course you won. Here you go, buddy. I'm sorry, I won't say the F word a whole lot. Were you guys here when I did the Dragon's Milk Beer School and we all got real toasty together? I'm so glad that was not being podcasted that night because I was real dirty and said really inappropriate things. I'm going to try not to do that this evening. So like I said, I work for New Holland Brewing Company. Is anyone, basically, I know you guys have been in class, but who's not familiar with New Holland? Everyone, right? Come on. Who is familiar with New Holland? Fantastic. All right, Nate, just yell out a beer you know. Of course. Of course. Well, I work for New Holland. We have been around 20 years, actually. This year is our 20-year anniversary. Round of applause for that. Jesus, 20 years. That is a feat in the craft beer world, especially what's happening in the industry today. We have been a brewery for 20 years, a distillery for 10. Most of you guys who've seen me here before, you've heard me talk about distilling, and we're going to do a little bit of both tonight. Brewery for 20 years. We are from Holland, Michigan, which is on the east side of Lake Michigan, little tiny Dutch conservative town that is a very beautiful place to go in the summer. I say this all the time, do not go in the winter. It's like end of days. It's awful. But so we've been around for 20 years. Most notably, years and years, we were known for Mad Hatter, which is our flagship IPA. Does everyone know Mad Hatter? I've had Mad Hatter. Roughly about 10 years ago, our flagship beer changed to Dragon's Milk, which is our bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout. I'll talk a little bit more about that as the evening goes on, the class goes on. I see our first beer coming around. Our first beer tonight is White Hatter. Have any of you guys had this beer before? Oh, you look at your big smile, which means you like it. Awesome. So as it's being poured, I'll tell you a little about White Hatter. White Hatter is our spring seasonal. We make this beer once a year in the springtime. We used to make it twice a year, now we make it once a year. It is a kind of a riff on Mad Hatter, which is our flagship IPA. It is a Belgian-style white pale ale. I could talk a little bit about IPAs and with the history of where they come from. I think most of you guys might know, but for those who don't, I'm going to say it anyway. IPA is a British style of beer. It's often sometimes referred to as a bitter. It's a riff on what is the traditional British style beer, or a pale or a bitter. The reason it is called an IPA is when the English colonized India, they found that the beer wasn't surviving the voyage on the boats from England to India. So what they would do they would barrel the beer and they would throw all of these hops in, which would cause this second round of fermentation, which would keep the beer, would preserve the beer for the journey. So what you end up getting is a hoppier beer. If I talk about IBUs, does everyone know what that is? The International Bittering Units, how we measure how bitter a beer is. Mad Hatter, we tend to like to brew our IPAs in what is the more traditional style of IPAs and pale ales, low on the IBUs. We all know these big palate burners that are up at 80, 90, 100. Mad Hatter is not one of those. Mad Hatter is 55. White Hatter is, I believe, 40, which is what's coming around right now. So like I said, we've been brewing Mad Hatter for 20 years. We started making a series of beers called our Hatter Day beers, and that is to celebrate our anniversary, which is every June. And White Hatter is one of those beers. We have made a Black Hatter. That beer is not around anymore because it was most often translated in a really bad way. So we don't make that beer anymore. We make a farmhouse Hatter. We actually make a Tasmanian Hatter, which is a Galaxy hopped IPA, which will come out as our summer seasonal, which is really delicious. I wish I had that here tonight, but I don't. It'll be here in May. So White Hatter is our spring seasonal. It's one of the beers that we make every year to celebrate our anniversary when we have these Hatter Day parties, which some of you guys have seen or have been around in the past when I've been here doing them. So it is a Belgian-style white pale ale. This beer is brewed with a little bit of coriander, a little bit of clove, lemon zest, orange zest, a little bit of Belgian yeast. Does everyone have one yet? I don't have one. You're okay. Take your time, hon. So like I was saying, coriander, Belgian yeast, a little bit of lemon zest. You're going to get a little bit of clove. You're going to get some of those traditional Belgian notes out of this beer. You are going to get a little bit of hop. This beer is lightly dry hopped in the finish. We use what's called a hop rocket. We basically take the hops, which are Centennial, I believe, this year. We put them in this long cylinder, and the beer is pushed through there just like a centrifuge, and it's spun. And then it goes directly into the keg or into the bottle. Thank you, darling. All right. Well, this is the first time I'm having this beer this year. Go ahead.
For anything that's designated in the Hatter series.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that's consistent that you do to each of those to make it part of that, or do you just designate, hey, this is going to be one of our
Traditionally, what we do with the Hatter beers is it starts. We look at them as we're going to make an IPA or a British bitter, and then we kind of riff from there. All of those other Hatters that I mentioned, we actually don't make anymore. We only make the White Hatter and the Tasmanian Hatter this year. We found that 7 or 8 of them was probably a little bit much. I think if you guys remember, we had an Imperial Hatter. Rye Hatter was good, though. Rye Hatter was good. Hopefully that one will come back. So all right, we're sipping White Hatter. Tell me yell out some things you guys are tasting. Banana, clove. And I will say this is a little bit lighter than I remember it being last year as far as the color. And it's a bit more citrusy than I remember it. I mean, it's been about a year since I've had this beer, so. Is anyone getting lemon? Mm-hmm. Very crisp. Now, I'm not, and this is just me, and it could be that I was drinking our double IPA, which we're going to have here in a couple minutes. I'm not getting a lot of hop. What do you guys think? No. Pretty light, right? Okay. The ABV on this one is 5.2. 5.2. Yes? Dry. Okay. Anyone have a different opinion of the mouthfeel? Creamy, okay. Yeah. It is a different White Hatter than it was last year. I feel like last year there was a little bit more pepper and coriander. Do you guys remember when we had this last year? Which is not a bad thing, actually, so I'm excited. The color is what strikes me instantly. Like I said, today is the first time I'm having this beer. We don't have this beer in package in Missouri this year. It's only on draft, so if you guys like it, getting growlers of it is really your only option this year. We oversold this beer by the tune of about 9,000 cases, and so Missouri, unfortunately, didn't get any cases of this beer this year. So let's just spin it that it's special. I think it's special. We got kegs. So I believe that Kelly will be coming around with the cocktail that we're gonna. Yes, go ahead. We distribute. That's an interesting segue for some big news for New Holland. We will be in the contiguous United States by the end of this year, all of them. We are in 36 right now. That was a big word. You guys like that? Contiguous. Did I use it correctly? Did I do good? I practiced that. We will be in all of the 48 by the end of this year. We entered into what is a really unique arrangement in the craft beer world. We all know the stories of the macro guys buying up craft breweries. We have entered into a partnership with PBR, Pabst Brewing Company. Yes. I believe. Let me look. That's okay. No, this one does not have gin in it. It does not. We entered into a partnership with Pabst Brewing Company effective as of March 1st. We are still 100% independently owned and operated. We have entered into a distribution and marketing partnership with them. Basically, they now handle all of our distribution to all of the states that we do business in. And what that means really is that all of the new states we open will go into their network. It is purely a financial agreement. They do not own us. They are not our boss. They take a cut off the top, and we get to use what is their very large distribution network. So it's kind of a win-win. It's probably, you're going to see more of this, the new model for craft breweries entering into agreements with macro breweries like this. And I've done a lot of work with these folks, and they're very, very good people, and they have an interesting portfolio of what they call high-end beers. Seeing Dragon's Milk, this is being recorded. Seeing Dragon's Milk next to Not Your Father's is something different, but they do their jobs really, really well. So we're very, very happy to be in this agreement with them. So I hope that answers your question. Things are looking very different for New Holland. Our distillery now is its own separate entity. Our agreement with PBR has nothing to do with the distillery. They don't distribute any of those products for us. And as a distillery, we are in 19 now states, and the same plan is by the end of 2017 to be distributing all of our spirits in every single state that isn't a control state. And control states like Pennsylvania, Iowa, places like that where the state actually controls the distribution of spirits, it's a little harder. And the reason for that is that there's a minimum buy. So let's say we sell 400 cases of our bourbon to them. We don't get paid on that until it leaves their warehouse. So it's like your revenue sitting somewhere you can't touch. So control states are a little harder to open for a distillery. So that was a really boring logistical business question, but a good one. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so everyone's had their White Hatter. I think the cocktail's coming around. I'm going to talk about the cocktail real quick. And again, Kelly put all of these together because she is a very brilliant mixologist. So all of our cocktails tonight are beer cocktails. Beer cocktails kind of became a craze in the past 4 to 5 years. People are putting them on their menus because craft beer is so big. And I will tell you guys, the craft distilling world is heading in that direction. I think I've said this before when I was here last. When we opened as a distillery 10 years ago, there were only 85 or 82 distilleries in America total. That includes the big guys. That includes Jack Daniel's, Jim Beam. This year, there's almost 3,000. So craft distilling is going the same way as craft beer. And a lot of cocktail bars and beer bars started to figure out, well, how do we capitalize on this? There are a lot of really great craft distilleries out there, and let's find a way that we can use some of their products and still promote beer. And for us, it works perfectly, right? I mean, we're a brewery and a distillery. So Cicero's, Kelly, when did you guys do the new cocktail menu? 3 months ago, and they are wonderful to me here, and it's, I would say there's probably 6 or 7 cocktails on that menu that not only use our beer, but use our spirits. So try them if you guys come in for dinner and you don't want a beer, try to get one of the cocktails. So we're gonna try some of those tonight. This cocktail that Kelly's come up with uses White Hatter, the beer that you guys just had. She has also put in some peach puree in this, a little bit of fresh lime juice, and a little bit of sweet and sour. The spirits that are in this, one is our Hatter Royale. Hatter Royale is a really interesting spirit. Unfortunately, we actually no longer make this spirit because there's still a bit of it around in the market, but we make so much bourbon and gin now that we had to cut our portfolio a little bit this year for spirits we make. But our Hatter Royale, thank you, darling, is a dry hopped white whiskey. We used to call this spirit Hopkila, and that was a play on words that got us in a little bit of trouble because it has no agave in it. It is actually just a neutral spirit that is dry hopped and steeped with Centennial. But if any of you guys have ever had neutral grain spirit, it kind of smells like tequila a little bit. When you add in the hops, it does even more and has a similar tequila taste. So we've since changed the name. It's no longer called Hopkila, it's called Hatter Royale. We designed this spirit to go side by side to pair well with Mad Hatter, with White Hatter, with some of these IPAs and pale ales that we make. So let's try the cocktail that Kelly came up with. Oh boy. I don't know I'm going to make it through second class. Gerlach, you're teaching. It's on you. Gail, can you do it? You can do it. I believe in you, Gail. What's that? Third class. Screw that. I'm out. So the other spirit that's in this, and this is, I think what Kelly was going for here is kind of a riff on a margarita. So she's using our dry hopped white whiskey, a little bit of fruit juice, lime, sour, that kind of thing. But she's also used another spirit we make, which is a really cool and versatile spirit for those of you guys who are into craft spirits or who do a little mixology at home, which is our Clockwork Orange. It is our orange liqueur. It's an 80 proof orange liqueur, so it's kind of nuts. It's really fun when this is being distilled at our distillery because you can smell the oranges and the lemons as you're pulling up. It's kind of a neat day when this happens. But this spirit has a little bit of cane sugar, fresh orange zest, lemon zest. There's a little bit of orange juice using this. There's a little bit of coriander as well using that spirit. So this is kind of, Kelly, I believe you're riffing on a margarita here, right? Yeah. What do you guys think? Yep, Cinco de Cryo. Right here. I like how you guys get like 2 ounces. I get full pours, and I'm the one who's got to teach this for the next 2 hours. It's going to get real interesting in the second class. So like I said, we kind of, when we started making the Hatter Royale, we try very hard with our spirits and our beers to kind of figure out how they work together. The brewery kind of inspired the distillery in some respects. When we opened our pub on 8th in Holland, Michigan, and have any of you guys ever been to Holland, Michigan? Okay, you're familiar with Hope College? That's right there. I mean, yes, Hope, yeah. You can spit at Hope College from where our brewery is. So, I mean, they're so close. They're really right next to each other. So our owner, at the time, the kids were coming in, and that you guys remember the kind of Three Olives Red Bull craze that happened. I mean, I remember very distinctly. I was working here when it was happening. That kind of shot craze that was happening. So our owner, being the true libertarian that he is, basically said, well, I don't want to sell anyone else's spirits. These kids want them, so I'm just going to make them on our own. But Michigan is a very conservative state. Holland especially a very conservative place. In order to do so, he had to become a state senator. And Brett made it. Well, I should say he attempted to become a state senator. That didn't work out for him. However, what he did manage to do was to change some of the laws in Holland, Michigan, so that we could be a distillery. We were laying down spirit, mostly whiskey, for about years before it was legal. We weren't selling it. We were just laying it down in the hopes that one day we would be able to sell it. So all of our spirits came out of a desire to sell our own spirits at the pub. what we realized very quickly is that we had something really unique and special. And so we tried to take those spirits into distribution. Clockwork Orange came about, that's the orange liqueur that is in the cocktail you guys are drinking, because our bartenders at the pub, they wanted a versatile spirit that they could use in cocktail making, in beer cocktails, something that was simple, easy, had a punch to it, and they could do a lot with. And that's where Clockwork Orange came from. I will say this, I do not know why we haven't got a cease and desist letter on the name. Maybe it's, it's public property at this point, but I always wonder why someone from Kubrick's estate hasn't come after us for that. But so this cocktail has two of our spirits, Hatter Royale hopped white whiskey and Clockwork Orange, which is our orange liqueur, all of which are for sale here in Missouri. I'll do a shameless plug. If you guys shop at Craft Beer Cellar, I'm sure you've seen them. Any of the big liquor stores will have these spirits. But well done, Kelly. This is very delicious. All right. So as a brewery, we do a couple things year-round. You guys are familiar with Mad Hatter, Dragon's Milk, of course. We've changed up our lineup this year. Lost Dune is a beer that's coming out soon, but we'll make year-round. Hop Tronics, which we're going to talk about in a minute. What's being poured for you guys right now is a beer that is called Black Tulip. This is a special beer for us. It's the only beer in our portfolio, and we only make this once a year, that is a Belgian style tripel. Now, I'm going to use the word style because we can't actually call it tripel. It is not made in Belgium, just as we can't call our Kolsch a Kolsch. We can call it a Kolsch style because it's not made in Cologne. This is the only beer in that kind of vein that we make. The name Black Tulip is pretty interesting. I wish I had a bottle I could show you guys. Unfortunately, I don't. The name Black Tulip is pretty interesting. Geneticists have been trying forever to create the perfect black tulip. They've never been able to do it. They've never been able to make the hybrid of this tulip. We are from Holland, Michigan, a very, very Dutch town. Our founder's name is Brett Vanderkamp. It doesn't get more Dutch than that. And so when we were creating this beer, I mean, the attempt to create to hybrid black tulip is it's the chase of perfection. And that's what we were going for this beer. It's why we gave it this name. It also is a little play on words. Given the climate of Holland, Michigan, when we became a brewery, we were kind of the black sheep of that town. We no longer are, but we were. And so when we've decided to make this beer, and we've been making this beer about 17 years, we named it the Black Tulip because it's the pursuit of perfection. And well, we were kind of the black sheep of Holland, Michigan. So everyone have it? All right, we're coming around. Okay, that's all right. While they're pouring, any questions about White Hatter or any of the things that I've talked about? Daniel, you got nothing?
So the third one is Black Tulip.
You were the third, yes. First beer was White Hatter. The cocktail we had White Hatter in it. This is Black Tulip. You like it? Now, I will confess, all of our palates are different, right? We all have different. We like different things, and I will tell you, none of it's wrong. None of it's wrong. I believe that you definitely can train your palate to like different things. I'll use an example for me. I used to hate sours. Couldn't do them, hated them. Love them now. Took me about 2 years. But none of your palates are wrong. You know, when there are people who say, I hate IPAs, yeah, okay, you don't like IPAs. It doesn't mean the beer is bad. It just means that your palate doesn't particularly like it. Do I think that over time you could train your palate to like some IPAs? Sure. Now, I'm going to call myself out here a little bit. I hate Belgian-style beers. I am such a traditional, like English, German, American-style beer drinker that the Belgian yeasts, the high alcohol, tend to make me feel a little nauseous. Am I the only one? Sometimes it makes me feel a little nauseous, a little bit. Right. Maybe it depends, right. Absolutely, it depends what you eat with. I mean, your palate's doing two different things there. So, and your stomach, right. I'm sorry, say that again? Just have one every day? Yeah, that's a fit. Yeah, drink one every day. Like, I know, and this is going to be blasphemy to some of you guys, Chimay, can't do it. I know it's good. I know, right? I know it's good, but for some reason I just can't do it. Donuts. Donuts, yes. Now, this was a shameless plug for Black Tulip, and I got a little sidetracked. I actually love this beer. I think it is I do. I think it's decadent. It's a little floral. You know, are you getting those? Like, well, let's smell it. Everyone, let's smell it together. Why not? What do we get? Yeah, yep. All of those, I mean, you're getting a lot of those same things we talked about with White Hatter. From, the honey. Anyone else feel? Daniel's saying that he's getting some honey. Caramel. That's interesting. Yeah? Now, I'm going to be a little crazy, and again, palates are different, but also what I've been drinking changes that a little bit. I get raisin, like golden raisin. No, a little bit of nuttiness. Yeah. So you're asking if bubbles count, like... Okay. So your comment is, and so I'm hearing it correctly. Do the bubbles affect what you're tasting, or you're getting that out of this? Yeah. Is anyone getting a very bubbly mouthfeel? Yeah. Hold on, guys. Shh. Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah, you're saying you feel like the bubbly champagne kind of, you're getting that out of this as well? Okay. Yes, there is. I've actually always thought that of all tripels and most Belgian stuff, the exception being St. Bernardus. For some reason, I don't get much floral out of what they do. It is. It's a little perfumey, which is interesting. Is that your number one sense is really your nose, right? That's why we want to smell things before we taste them. We all know that most of your memory is made by your sense of smell. I don't get with this beer. I don't get that floral on the nose, but I'm getting it. I get it in the taste, right? So I'm really curious to see what Kelly's come up with as a cocktail for this beer. The IBUs on this, I'm not quite sure what the IBUs on this are. I will tell you that they're very low. It's probably 30 or 35. The ABV on this beer is 8.8. Come on up here, Jack A. Come on up here, Jack A. 8.8. 8.8. The IBUs are definitely somewhere around 30 or 35. Yep. And that's about as low as we go. Our Kolsch might be a little bit lower, but yeah. What's that? Oh, ABV, I wish. IBU, yes. No, we go IBU, ABV, we go as high as 15, which is the Dragon's Milk Triple Mash, but we don't have any of that tonight, so. Hey, look, there's some fun Dragon's Milk coming. Don't whine. Okay, we're going to talk about the cocktail that we're having now that Kelly's come up with. Again, this is using the Black Tulip, the Belgian-style tripel that you guys just had. She has included our Knickerbocker gin, so if anyone has an aversion to gin or allergy, that was a question earlier, there is gin in this. She's also using a little bit of strawberry puree, a dash of lemonade, and again, our Clockwork Orange. Remember how I talked about how versatile that spirit is for making cocktails? So again, Kelly's used that here. I'm going to talk about Knickerbocker for a second. Knickerbocker is our flagship gin. Outside of some whiskeys that we started laying down a number of years ago, we started making gin. Gin is the fastest growing, actually gin and rum, believe it or not, the fastest growing sect of distilling right now. When we started distilling, we threw a party when we sold our first 1,000 cases. Most of that, I can't speak to a percentage, was actually Knickerbocker gin, which is our flagship gin. This past year, we sold roughly 38,000 cases. Our gin, Knickerbocker, was up by 67% this year. Gin is a spirits category that is just doing well and it's flying. And to speak to how popular Knickerbocker has become for us, we opened a new brew pub and distillery and brewery in Grand Rapids. If anyone has not been there, you should. It's amazing, and it's called the Knickerbocker. And that's where most of our gin is now produced, in Grand Rapids at the Knickerbocker. So it's a beautiful place. This is a very, one sec. This is a very drinkable gin. It's easy to drink. It's great with ice cubes. It's great with a splash of club soda. All right, let's taste the cocktail. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It is. What's unique about Knickerbocker is we use, like all of our spirits are beer wash. It's all made from the distillery. It's all grain spirit. The exception here is Knickerbocker. What we do differently with Knickerbocker is we use about 13 different botanicals, and most people know gin, juniper berry, things like juniper berry, angelica root. What's that? Yep. I mean, and to be honest, gin really is the first flavored vodka. What we do a little differently is fennel is actually our number one botanical in Knickerbocker. So that's where you're getting a little bit of that spice from, is the fennel that we use in this spirit. Fennel, a little bit of jasmine, fennel, and juniper, angelica root, all the things that you expect from gin. We will do that. I'm sure that Kelly will, yeah. We'll make sure that you guys can get these recipes. And there are versions of some of these cocktails on Cicero's cocktail menu. So, yep. Go ahead. I saw lots of questions there, hon. I'm sorry. I passed right over you. In this cocktail, the ingredients here are Knickerbocker gin, New Holland's Knickerbocker gin, the Black Tulip Belgian-style tripel, which you guys tasted first, strawberry puree, which you can buy. I recommend making it. It's pretty easy to make, and it's going to be better tasting, and there's not going to be so much sugar. So I recommend making those kinds of things. Making those kinds of juices are super easy. A little bit of lemonade. Again, you could even maybe switch like store-bought lemonade for just making a simple syrup, like fresh lemon juice mix for that on your own. And then this has the Clockwork Orange, which is our orange liqueur in it. Now, as far as exact quantities of what Kelly is used in these, we'll find out. If you guys want to know, we'll ask her. Go ahead. There is actually in the gin. Yes. Yeah, that might be what we're tasting. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Ask that question again. Well, it's distilled in the same vein as a vodka. What we do with the gin is we do what's called steeping. So we take all of those botanicals, and when it's in the kettle, it basically sits in what is a giant cheesecloth, and the heads run through that, and then we kind of separate it again, and then we do it again. So that's kind of, it's like I said earlier, gin is just basically flavored vodka. All we're doing is we're adding the flavoring of the botanicals, and every gin maker, whether it's a London dry gin, this is truly an American gin. I want to make that very clear. A London dry gin, all of that botanical recipe, they're all very different. They all keep them very secret. So Hendrick's has a very different botanical recipe than, say, Knickerbocker will. Tanqueray does something very different, and those are close guarded secrets. Hence the reason I didn't say what all 13 of our botanicals were, but yeah. We've been making Mad Hatter a long time, and we've been making it roughly 20 years. It is our flagship IPA. This year, we launched this beer in November, and it's doing so well for us. It is now kind of our number 2 in sales outside of Dragon's Milk, and this is Hop Tronics. This is our double IPA. We have never made a double IPA before. This is our first go at it. We launched this in November. It did so well for us that we sold out of our hop contract. You guys know that craft breweries have to do these things called hop contracts in order to get them, and we had a hop contract basically enough to fulfill us for 2 years. Well, we ran out in 2 months because this beer did so well for us. It's relatively new to Missouri. Not a lot of it has come. I will tell you, this is now a year-round brand, and you guys will get it starting next month. You'll get it just about everywhere you can find New Holland. This is a single hopped double IPA. These are Mosaic hops. Let's take a sip. And this is 9%. Ooh, what do we think? I like these sounds. Now, Mary, before I get to I want to say something before I get to your question. Well, we're just going to be real about this. This beer smells like wheat. Now, I'll tell you why. It's hops are in the same taxonomic family of plants as marijuana is. You're not going to get high from drinking this. It's not going to happen. But the double hopping of this using the Mosaic hops, that's why you're getting that smell. And we've all kind of, we've had bigger IPAs before, and different hops do different things, right? But this definitely smells like college.
Smells like a Dave Matthews concert.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've been at one of those. So what do we think? What do we think? This is a big IPA for us. This we're going to look at IBUs because I am not remembering at the moment exactly what they are. 70. This is actually the most IBUs of any beer we have ever made. All right. Shh. What do we think? Tell me what you guys get other than the obvious hoppiness. Are you getting grapefruit? Is anyone feeling citrus? A little bit? You feel? Did you say you feel bitch slapped? I'm not sure that's what we were going for, but that could be a good thing. Depends on your Saturday night, darling. That could be a good thing. Or Wednesday night, whatever. You guys know me well enough to know that was going to happen. Yeah.
It was not a good transition.
Right.
That might be making it worse.
That's a fair point because we had a very sweet cocktail. Right, and now we have a very yeah, that's a good point. And that's, these are kind of the mistakes sometimes you make with tasting, right? Right? The palate's going to do weird things. That is a good point. So so to quote you, maybe it was a bit of a bitch slap. Not Kelly's fault. I picked the rotation. Up with, again, uses the Hop Tronics double IPA that you guys just had. She is using a little bit of fresh lemon juice, simple syrup, which is, if you guys aren't familiar with simple syrup is, it's basically equal parts water and sugar made into a syrup. What's really fun about this cocktail that Kelly's come up with is that this is actually our barrel-aged Knickerbocker. This is our Knickerbocker gin that we age for 1 year in our American single malt barrels. We make an American single malt called Zeppelin's Bend. So we basically take our gin and we age it in whiskey barrels for 1 year. That gin is the Craft Distillers Institute and the American Distilling Institute have called our barrel-aged Knickerbocker the best gin in America. It has won gold in 4 years in a row, and it has won best in show in every craft distilling competition it has ever been entered in. It is by far our most award-winning spirit. So it is gin aged in whiskey barrels. And what's great about it is that, and I wish, maybe if I could get the bottle up here, it actually looks like whiskey because it ages in the barrels. And it's a really fun spirit to play with. If you're traditionally a whiskey drinker and don't like gin, I would say to you, try barrel-aged gins because they're mostly aged in whiskey barrels. And it's really fun to take this gin and use it in whiskey cocktails, to make old fashions with it, make Manhattans with it, things like that. Go ahead, darling. Wine and cheese most definitely has Knickerbocker. Lucas, Randall's. If you guys live anywhere near a craft beer cellar, I know that they have all of our spirits. So, yep. All right, let's try the cocktail. Go ahead. Yes. Well, we are, sure, absolutely. That's a good question. She was asking why is it called, and why do we call our gins Knickerbocker? I talked about how, oh, thank you. Here is what, if you guys can see, it's kind of hard what the barrel-aged Knickerbocker looks like. I'll try to do, you see how it's a brown colored? It's not clear like our regular Knickerbocker or traditional gin. That comes from aging in the whiskey barrel for 1 year. Back to the question, which was why do we call it Knickerbocker? We are a brewery in a Dutch town in Michigan, and Knickerbockers were the Dutch explorers, and we kind of see ourselves in Holland as the people who kind of push the way for craft beer and craft distilling in that part of Michigan. So we're the Knickerbockers of that part of Michigan. So, hold on, guys, if you guys don't mind, say it a little louder. Yeah, right. And New York, I mean, it was once called New Amsterdam. I mean, there's a big Dutch culture there. All right, let's taste the cocktail. I do. Wow, Kelly, this is awesome. This is a kind of a riff on a Negroni, Kelly. Well done. Yeah, jeez. All right, well, we're done. Bye, guys. This is good. Wow. Yeah, this is light, tangy. It's got a little bit of that Campari bitterness that you would expect from a Negroni. In fact, we're going to call this Kelly's Negroni because this is really, really, really quite good. Kelly, is this on your menu? Yeah. Not yet. It is now. You have a winner here. Delicious. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a lot of really good lemon zest flavor in this, a little bit of spice, great bitterness. Wow. You know, my company paid a lot of money for me to do bar smarts and to become a bourbon specialist and all this stuff, and I think Kelly just made a better cocktail than I've ever made. So, Kelly, you're not looking for employment, are you? I know, this is really good. It was really fun when Chad approached me with doing this beer school. I know it's not something that's been done before, beer and spirits, but we were using beer in the cocktails. My first thought was, no, this is crazy. It's not going to work, and I have to give it up for Kelly. She did a really, really wonderful job with these cocktails so far. All right, Kelly, we're gonna kick this up just because I'm losing people. I'm gonna talk, and you just do what you do. Our next beer, of course, is our flag. Oh, go ahead. Yes. Oh, great. You did see, that's great. I'm going to say, what's your name? Beth? Beth just said that she hated the beer. You're clearly not an IPA drinker. She hated the beer, but she loved the cocktail. How many people agree with that? That's awesome. See, that is a sign of a really, really great mixologist. That's awesome. Because what she did is she changed that flavor profile, which is kind of fun that we went from beer to spirit, or beer to cocktail, because that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so maybe you won't buy, but you'll buy the gin. There you go. Well, that's awesome. All right, what they're coming around with next, guys, is our flagship beer. And you guys know that every time I'm here, we taste this beer or one of the variants of this beer because it is what we do and it's what we do well, and it's the Dragon. It's Dragon's Milk. So we're going to end big. We are the only craft brewery, and I say this fairly often. We're the only craft brewery in America that makes a bourbon barrel-aged stout year-round. This beer is available 365 days a year. It is an unlimited release. There's roughly about 4,000 and some odd barrels of this beer aging at New Holland right now. If you guys ever have a chance to go see either one of our breweries, it's quite a sight. In fact, it smells what I believe heaven smells like, which is stout and, whiskey. We started making this beer a decade ago. When we first started making it, we did it one time. Making a barrel-aged stout it's a big endeavor. One, it requires whiskey barrels, right? We all know how hard those can be to come by. It also requires aging. So you have to think of making a beer like this, and this is no slam on any other breweries. It took us 10 years to get to the point where we could make this beer year-round. You're looking at your revenue sitting on a shelf. Think about that. Like, you're making this beer, you're putting it in barrels, and you're hoping it turns out. And there's a lot of money invested in making beers like this. When we first started making Dragon's Milk, we did it one time the first year. It was received well. Second year, we made it 2 times. Third year, we actually made it once a quarter. Then we started doing it once a month. And about 2 years ago, it was something that was just on allocation. It was something everyone knew New Holland had, but who knew when it was coming. But what we were doing is ramping up to be able to fully produce this beer year-round, which is now what we do. Dragon's Milk is on the shelves 365 days a year. If it's not, I'm not doing my job right. But Dragon's Milk is now available 365 days a year, and we're very, very proud of that. This beer ages, it does 2 rounds of aging. It does 9 months in a barrel, 18 months. We blend it together. This is a blended bourbon barrel-aged stout. The reason we do that is because we source those barrels from all over. We source them from Heaven Hill, Jim Beam, whoever will sell us bourbon barrels. We're very fortunate that we started doing this fairly long ago. Founders has probably been doing it a little bit longer than us. There is some debate on who was doing it first, but it doesn't matter. They're all wonderful beers and wonderful breweries. So we have relationships with these distillers that we get our barrels from. Shh, one sec, guys. What is very special about what we do is we're also a distillery, so we have our own whiskey and bourbon barrels. So a lot of Dragon's Milk now is being aged in our own barrels, from our own bourbon, our own whiskey. We have relationships with 2 cooperages, one that is in Michigan, which is not very far from us, and another actually that's here in Missouri in St. Genevieve. So we get a lot of our new oak from those cooperages. We then age our own whiskeys and bourbon, and then we use those barrels. They go into our Dragon's Milk program. All of the barrels, the whiskey barrels and bourbon barrels for Dragon's Milk, are used twice. We then retire them to the distillery. This is where it gets real fun. We make a bourbon, which is our best-selling spirit. It's called Beer Barrel Bourbon. It is actually a bourbon that is finished in our Dragon's Milk barrels. I'll talk a little bit, that's coming up in the next cocktail. So we use the barrels in Dragon's Milk, we retire them to the distillery, and then when they're done in the distillery, we make all of our furniture from them. Every single chair, every single lamp, every single picture on the wall frame is made from a Dragon's Milk barrel. So we don't waste anything. So if you ever have a chance to go see our pub in Holland or the pub, the Knickerbocker in Grand Rapids, every light fixture, every chair, all of those things are made, and table are made from Dragon's Milk barrels. Yes?
They're not doing some sort of Indian, like beer barrel, bourbon barrel route where you think eventually it would average out to have a consistent.
No, the reason for that is that eventually there's too much bacteria. There's too much bacteria. So, I mean, the bourbon kills them, but then if they do 2 runs, 1 run in the distillery, then they're retired. And we put them out of commission. We make furniture out of them. We make keychains out of them. I mean, hell, we'd make cars out of them if we could.
They also run out of flavor.
They do run out of flavor. Yes, over time they do run out of flavor. Yep.
Put it in plastic.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, I'm just kind of curious because they normally don't make like bourbon barrel-aged stouts in the summertime.
Right.
Do you guys notice a big contrast between your winter sales and your summer?
That is a great question, and I love this question. Her question is, what's your name?
Maggie.
Maggie asked, do we see a drop in sales in Dragon's Milk in the summertime? No. It is our #1 selling beer. It roughly represents a little over 50% of what we do as a brewery. It is our best-selling product. It has the highest profit margin, and I'm just going to toot our own horn for a second. The highest profit margin of any craft beer and any craft brewery in America. We are the #3 selling stout in grocery outside of Guinness and Left Hand. We do not see a dip in sales in Dragon's Milk, and it happened by accident. We didn't know it was going to happen. We just got lucky, and it's real good. So do we have everyone have it yet? Yeah? All right. Let's take a sip. I could talk about it all day, so I'm going to let you guys talk about it. Tell me what you're tasting. Taste of the Midwest, we actually have a whole trailer that is just Dragon's Milk, and there is a maple bacon. There is a jalapeno Dragon's Milk. So I'm leading up to something really awesome. Next month, we are bringing, and we have a decent amount of it coming to Missouri, Dragon's Milk Mexican Spice Cake. It is, if you come to my launch party at Global Brew, you can get some churros and Mexican spice bar. That's on Cinco de Mayo. Shameless plug, that's where I was going. Cinco de Mayo, Global Brew, Rock Hill. Sorry, Chad, it's not here. But you're getting a keg. So Dragon's Milk Mexican Spice Cake is the next reserve. There's about 72 cases of it and roughly 10 kegs that are coming to market. And I had the opportunity of trying it a couple weeks ago. And, you know, some of these reserves, these flavors, these concepts, and you think Mexican spice cake, how does that work? Well, it works. I didn't think vanilla chai would work. When they told me we were making a Dragon's Milk vanilla chai, all right, I said, how could that work? It was delicious, and it tasted like Christmas. It was so good. So we love Dragon's Milk, right? Yes. 3.5 years, and then for 4 months in the Dragon's Milk barrel. So this cocktail you guys are having with Dragon's Milk and our beer barrel bourbon also has a little bit of bitters, again, some fresh lime juice, and Kelly went big and raspberries. Yeah, this is pretty fantastic. Oddly enough, to speak to Maggie, this is kind of a summer cocktail. Yeah, it has bourbon and stout in it. There you go. Wow, well done. A round of applause for Kelly again, guys. She really did an amazing job with these cocktails. All right, I have kept you guys here long enough. We have tasted 8 things. What we're going to do is we're going to raffle off some stuff. Wow, there's a lot of raffle tickets in here.